Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, this is the LAT call. This is Laurel with the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. And we're trying something new this time around. For anyone who's called in the past, we've just used a conference line. But today we're going to attempt to do a webinar and hope that our sound quality is a little bit better. So I believe everybody should be hearing me now. Could I just get people who know how to use GoToWebinar to send me a quick message and let me know if you are having any trouble with audio, and then we'll get started in just a second.
So hey everybody, this is Jason, Laurel's sidekick and counterpart, and a couple of folks have said that they're having some audio issues and that it's breaking up. Unfortunately, given the fact that we've had a bunch of folks say that everything's sounding good, if you are having any audio issues, our recommendation would be to log out, log back in, and chances are it's a connection on your end. Unfortunately, there's no really any workaround we can do here to fix that.
Or you can call in using the phone. I see that at least one person has said that that didn't work for them, but it should be working. There should be a PIN or a code that you can use to call in using your phone. So hopefully one of those options will work. I'm going to go ahead and get us started, but let us know if we're having some more issues. And let me just pull up our screen. Oops. All right, hopefully everyone now is seeing our screen with our information. And what we're doing today is we're going to keep everybody on mute because we do have a slightly larger group. If you've called in the past, you know that we like to have some dialogue and give people a chance to kind of talk about what's going on locally or ask questions. So bear with us today. We're going to give this a try. If you have a question or you want to chime in, please raise your hand, send us a question via chat. All of these are on your right sidebar with the GoToWebinar tools. And if we somehow miss your questions or aren't able to kind of get you in time, we'll follow up with you. But thank you for bearing with us as we try this webinar for the first time with our LAT call. Hopefully our sound will be better or improve, and we can actually use this moving forward to share better information with you from the Legislative Action Committee. So for those who have been on for a little while or just joining us, this is our October monthly Legislative Action Committee call. On your screen, you should see our agenda. I also emailed that out to everybody with links to several of the specific things that we'll be talking about. At any point, if you want to ask a question or chime in, raise your hand or ask a question via chat. And we'll have time at the end, I believe, for questions as well. It just occurred to me that we won't be able to do introductions today with everybody on mute. So I apologize for that, but we'll make sure that we capture everybody. We do take notes from all of our calls and post them on our website. We also have a Google Drive now where we'll be sharing all of our minutes and meeting notes. So we will capture everybody who attended today and have that list on our notes for today's call.
We can look at attendees and share who's on.
If you'd like to.
If people would like. Let's listen. What do you think? Well, we're going to take a look at our attendees list and see if we have people identified, and we can go through and give some quick roll call. If that's okay with everybody. Alice Lundquist, Amy Dillon, Angela Hood, Deborah Hayes, Gabriela Gonzalez. Of course, I don't have all the communities and agencies with this, but just by name. Gregory Collier, Jay Munley, John Nemla, Kate White, Natalie Rundesbacher, I apologize if I didn't get that right. Nina Lavi, Peter Rourke, Prudence Anguillum, again, I butchered that name. Charmaine Kolkahi Brownlee, Shelley Gibson Lomax, Stephanie Zorn Kasperzak, and Vonda Willie. I think we got everybody accounted for there so far.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll go ahead and introduce ourselves for anyone who doesn't know who we are. This is Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. My name is Laurel.
Eric Huffnagel.
And Jason Weller.
And we're going to kick off by talking about something that's coming up that we're really excited about, and we want to make sure all of you know and are equally excited, and that is our Homeless Awareness Week Sleep Out. Homeless Awareness Week is November 11th through the 19th this year, for anyone who did not know. It's a great opportunity to engage with people in your community and to hold events that raise awareness or funds. This is a great opportunity to have fundraisers as well for your organization and your cause. We have chosen this year, Micah has chosen this year, to engage with our legislators and our media throughout the state through an event, and that is our Homeless Awareness Week Sleep Out. We had to do it a little bit early due to some conflicts with calendars with our legislators. So it is November 8th through the 9th here in Lansing. And it's going to give people an opportunity to learn more about homelessness. We're taking a statewide perspective on this and going to be giving information about what homelessness looks like in the state. But because we're basing it in Lansing, where we're located and where our legislators come to work every day from the state legislature, we are also bringing in our local, broader Lansing area partners to share information from the local perspective. Then we're asking legislators and the media to spend the night either outside, unsheltered, or inside one of our local shelters. And we're hoping that this just gives an opportunity to kind of have a little more empathy and a better understanding about what the people who we work with every day actually experience and encounter. And then we're going to be following up with these individual participants throughout the following year just to see what else we can do with them to engage and try and see some things happen around homelessness and policy and practices that can improve the work that we do. So I'll talk a little bit more about what we hope you guys can do to help us out with this, but for now, mostly just wanted to let you guys know about this. We do have information online on our website that I'll be directing you guys to. But it is an opportunity to really get elected officials and media involved. And we're really excited to have three legislators, Representatives Brand out of Kent County and Representative Cochran out of Ingham County, and State Senator Hertel out of Ingham County are sponsoring and participating. They're actually going to be spending the night outside during this event. So that's just to let you guys know about it, and I'll let you know how you can get involved a little bit in a bit. So the next item on our agenda are our policy priorities. Jason, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so state ID feels like it's been a little bit of one step forward, one step back. But in that the ID task force was working with the Michigan Secretary of State on a couple of initiatives, and the dialogue was actually going along pretty well. However, we found out back in September that the Secretary of State had kind of changed course on us. So one of the things that the task force asked Micah to undertake was creating a sign-on letter, because one of the things we're hearing from Secretary of State is that there's not enough or not a lot of interest from folks in the field to want to participate in the expansion of the pilot. So we created a sign-on letter to prove that, we already had the feedback from the survey, which of course was literally from communities all across the state. But the sign-on letter we felt like is the next step because it allows individuals and organizations from all across Michigan to go on the record as saying that they would like to see the Secretary of State take action. So from what I understand, the action we're asking them to take is, one, making it easier for individuals experiencing homelessness to obtain an ID. So, which in more detail means expanding the pilot that the Secretary of State's created in 5 communities in Michigan. And then the second piece is asking the Secretary of State to consider expanding the Free ID for Me program to cover homeless individuals as well. So those are the two basic asks. Laurel has the bit.ly link on the screen. I think it was also embedded in the email she sent out announcing today's meeting. So if you have a chance to click on that, that's actually the Google sign-on form, or the Google form where you can sign on. There's also a link there that actually goes to the full text of the letter for those of you who want to get you want to see all the detailed stuff and see what exactly we're asking for. Because what's on the sign-on letter is kind of the dumbed down public-facing version of the letter. So that's the big project we're undertaking. We launched the sign-on letter in time for the summit and came away with almost 100 individual signatures in about 25 to 30 organizations. Since then, we've been broadcasting it kind of slowly and intentionally. We've been we put it a couple rounds now via social media, and we are slowly emailing the link out to different constituent groups. And then I believe there's going to be some kind of all-in email blast coming out here in the next couple of weeks. So we want to make sure that the folks kind of building the awareness of it first and getting folks talking about it, so that way whenever it gets in their mailbox, they know exactly what's going on. So that's the big news for the ID task force. Otherwise, it's a lot of status quo. In terms of stuff that's going on at the local level, we've had no new local initiatives or anything like that since the last LAC meeting. So any questions? I see Laurel's looking, see if anybody has raised their hands, typed anything in. Okay, I think decriminalization.
Yeah, don't have a lot to report out from this subcommittee. We continue to meet regularly. Every other month is our new schedule. So we will be meeting again on November, I should know this, November 10th at 10 a.m. In the meantime, we have started to do our pilot with our client questionnaire. Again, this is our hope to collect some information from the client perspective about how they feel they are being treated by police, by the legal system, and the barriers that they are experiencing with accessing housing, especially for those with a criminal record. So we are doing this client questionnaire with 3 different pilot communities, and we have started to receive results from one of them, and the other 2 are still collecting them. We will be analyzing those, making changes to the questionnaire, and discussing it on our November 10th meeting, which is just a phone call. If anybody is interested, they can shoot me an email and let me know, and I'll add you to our list. But once we've made changes, any necessary changes to that client questionnaire after that meeting, we will then be going statewide and asking all of our partners to help us collect this information. And we hope to do that early next year, 2018, so that we can start collecting information, analyzing it, and start working on policy priorities and trying to get some things happening at the state and local level to better help with this decriminalization work. So that's it. We're still anxiously awaiting our results, but what I've gotten back so far has been really promising, and I'm excited to see what we are able to learn from the client perspective on this issue. Affordable housing, Eric.
Okay, well, not an awful lot to report other than it's a hot topic around the state. We are wanting to kick things up a notch and move things forward just due to the significance of the issue and because of the many conversations that we've had with individuals around the state, different pockets where there are some activities taking place. Would like to put out a call for chairs for this committee. We're looking for a couple of people who might be in a position to help move things forward. We want to get it moving as quickly as possible and have lingered a little bit on the issue. But again, it's something we want to get some traction on only because it continues to be a problem. It's growing. And there are some things being done in some communities. We'd like to try to pull this together so we don't have a fragmented approach throughout the state. If we can get some synergy by pulling together people who are involved in their communities with the issue, or have a real strong commitment to the issue of affordable housing. We're putting that call out to see if there are any willing partners that want to step into that role. We do have a number of people who have volunteered to be a part of the committee. I think we're at about a half dozen, roughly 6 or 7 individuals that had self-identified previously. So we're also looking for volunteers for that committee, not just for the chair or co-chair role, but also any other individuals who may be interested in being involved. Please let us know as soon as possible. We do want to get a meeting scheduled. We would like to have it populated with as many people as possible, and would certainly like to have it populated with individuals who would like to act as co-chairs. So that's where we stand on it, and to keep it moving, we're asking for your help on it.
And if you're interested in volunteering, you can email us. The emails that went out with this LAC agenda, if you reply to that, it will come directly to me. This is Laurel. And so you can just respond to that email and let us know if you're interested in volunteering either to be on any of these committees or specifically the affordable housing if you'd like to chair that. All right, we'll move on to our state updates. Really wanted to take this opportunity to let you guys know about a couple things, mostly things that we can't take a lot of action on yet, but that I wanted to put on your radar. So the first one is House Bill 4719. The link is going to be in the agenda that was emailed out if you want to take a look at that text. And this House bill was introduced earlier this year. My understanding is that this is at least a second iteration of this bill. It's gone through and failed in the past. But this version has made some changes, and it is a Landlord-Tenant Act to try and control bed bugs. Of interest to us, this bill does allow a landlord to, well, I'll start with the good part. It does hold the landlord accountable for treatment. It does set a timeline for how quickly a landlord must act in identifying and treating bed bugs. But at the same time, on the bad side, it also allows a landlord to hold a tenant accountable and financially responsible for that treatment. It was heard in committee last week, and there were a lot of really good questions from our representatives on the committee about how legally they define terms like negligence, or how they can cite evidence that proves that a tenant is responsible. There were no good answers at that committee about how those would be enacted, which leaves a lot of open space for tenants to really kind of bear the burden of paying for this. There were also some concerns about MSHDA and HUD housing versus other fair market value housing. And so we're looking into that a little bit. There seemed to be a belief among our legislators that this legislation would only apply to those who are paying market value rent. Therefore, no low-income individuals would be held accountable or required to participate under the guidelines of this legislation. And we believe that to be false. We have a lot of concerns that there's a lot of low-income individuals who would be impacted by this, regardless of what type of housing they live in. And so we are looking into what we can do about this. There are other state partners who are actively opposing this, and we also will be opposing this legislation based on that clause about tenant responsibility and financial obligations. I believe that they will be hearing this again this week in committee, and I don't know if they'll be accepting additional testimony or if they'll just be voting on it. So we will keep you guys informed, but at this point, I will be sending a follow-up email to those who are on the call to let you know who you can contact if you'd like to submit your opposition to this bill, which we encourage you to do. Did you have anything you'd like to add?
I just want to point out that it's, as you may already recognize, it's a slippery slope here. If you start identifying things such as bed bugs as being the sole responsibility of the tenant, there are any other number of things that could be pulled into that umbrella at a later date as well. So the fact that science tells us that bed bugs can actually lay dormant, I think, for a year, there is no real way of having true accountability with respect to looking at what the source was of the bed bugs. And so we just feel it's inappropriate, and if indeed there are some concerns, this is not an act that will address the problem efficiently and effectively. And what it will end up doing is causing a greater unintended consequence that we will have to deal with. Unfortunately, a lot of people will be impacted by unnecessarily. So we're on top of it, but we need your input as well.
Yes, and there's a lot of great organizations that are working together to oppose this. So I'm hopeful. Like I said, this is the second time around with this, at least the second time. So I'm hopeful that we can push back hard enough to either make the necessary changes or just make sure it doesn't go any further. Next, we have House Bills 4686 and 4687. These are old bills that were introduced by Representative Chang back in May, and they would allow local units to limit rent specifically for seniors and individuals with disabilities. It provides a tax exemption for property owners, managers, for those who allow those kind of caps on rent. So specifically, it limits rent for these two populations to 50% of their household income. I spoke with Representative Chang's office earlier today, and this is a legislation that they are not optimistic will move forward. Both of these bills, which they just refer to as rent control, they have another bill as well as part of this. They're just not seeing a lot of movement with it. It was referred to the Committee on Local Government, and they have not yet received notice that it will get a hearing. But we're hopeful that this is legislation that can be incorporated into some work that Representative Chang and Representative Peterson are working on specific to senior affordable housing. And I was told that there is a possibility that this will either be incorporated into future legislation on this issue or amended and brought into a broader package. So there's not really any action to take on this. I just wanted to inform everybody that these were out there, that we do have representatives in the House, the State House, who are very concerned about affordable housing and specifically senior affordable housing, and that they are thinking about ways to try and provide better housing opportunities and rent controls for populations who are most in need. So Michael will be working with these two representatives, and we encourage anybody else who is interested just to contact Representative Chang and Representative Peterson and let them know that their work is appreciated. We really value the fact that they are taking action on this issue and that we all want to participate in finding solutions. Another representative I recognize here, I have Senator, but it is Representative Brand.
Well, he got a promotion, didn't even know it.
Well, this is Representative Brand out of Kent County. He is also very interested in trying to introduce legislation that will help with affordable housing. He's taking the approach of landlord incentivization, and he has a bill that he's hoping to drop this year or early next year. We have not been able to see the language on this bill. We have some concerns about what all will be included and what that incentivization looks like. But again, another representative, again, not a senator, a representative who is very concerned about affordable housing and wanting to see some things happen. He, as far as I have heard and in speaking with him, I believe he is not interested in very specific demographics. So he's not focused just on seniors or those with disabilities. He's really broadly concerned with affordable housing. He owns a restaurant out in Kent County, owns several restaurants out in Kent County, and he sees homelessness through his interaction at the restaurant. So he's another individual who is working on legislation that we will be notifying you guys about if it is something that we need to take action on, either in support or in trying to make some amendments to the language. And we'll just keep you guys updated on both of those.
And I would add that he's well intended. The question is, what will the content of the bill actually be? Because the devil is in the details with respect to this type of an approach. There is no clarity at this point as to what level of incentive it would be. How would it actually be implemented? Is it something that would be a tax incentive that would be covering a unit if it was rented for an entire year versus 1 month, et cetera, et cetera? A lot of questions there, and we hope to be working with him to make sure that whatever he does introduce is going to be reasonable and something that not only would pass and be adopted into law, but also would be something that could be implemented easily and actually would have the intended outcome. So we hope to be at the table involved in that process. And I think this is just another example where we have elected officials who are thinking in terms of what they can do to help address the issue of affordable housing. So that tells me that we're in a pretty good environment right now, that indeed they are open to the issue, that they're interested in being involved in the issue and understand it's not just a local issue and it's not just about making dollars available to help with the development itself, but also some other things through legislation that can also be a part of the bigger picture, because it's an issue that's going to need a broad range of solutions, not just simply putting money into the development of new units. So it's very encouraging to see. So that's me making a plug for the Affordable Housing Committee. If you weren't excited before that, you should be now. Okay, so switching gears, if we're all okay with that. Federal updates, want to just talk about the budget, and as hopefully most of you know, the House and the Senate both adopted budgets, and so now we're in the reconciliation process. The conference committees have not been scheduled that I'm aware of, but I would imagine that that will be happening soon so that they can land on final figures. The good news, as some of you may be aware, is that the figures from the House proposed budget and the Senate proposed budget are both significantly higher than what the administration had proposed. Not necessarily at the perfect levels, but we're encouraged by both figures. We're thinking, of course, that the Senate's numbers are closer to what the actual needs are. So we're hopeful that we'll see the numbers come in line with the Senate's version more closely than the House version. I also wanted to talk about the federal budget from the standpoint of the action that was taken with respect to the Senate budget resolution, which hopefully all of you had heard about this week. And the intent there is to have a rough roadmap, if you will, with respect to what kind of funds would be available in the future, not just this year, but going forward. And so that was necessary for discussions to take place with respect to looking at our tax model and how tax reform may take place. So that's a hurdle that was cleared. We need to be aware of the fact that for that to take place, in essence, what the Senate is saying is that we want to move forward, and we have laid out some cuts to make our roadmap possible. So it's laying out budgets for the next 10 years, roughly. The Senate actually has put together something that will call for about $5.8 trillion in cuts over the next 10 years. And there's some pretty significant areas that we need to be aware of. Medicaid is one of those, but there are a lot of other programs that affect the populations that we're working with. So we're looking at things like income security. So we're talking about $653 billion with a B being cut over 10 years, and that would include our TANF dollars, SSI, low-income tax credits, SNAP, the food program. Those are a lot of the things that we understand are helpful tools in assisting the needs of a significant portion of the population that we're working with. So there are some concerns on the horizon that if indeed that roadmap, if you will, on the budget holds steady, we could be looking at some pretty significant issues going forward. So I just want to put that out there, not because we're going to dig into the weeds on it, but just so that you understand that there are some significant issues that we may have to be looking at with respect to funding, particularly if we see some major tax reform take place that would significantly cut funding. Some of the things that we are looking at are those related tax pieces that might be affected by the tax reform framework that's developed. And an example of that would be the low-income housing tax credit. Right now, when we look at the framework, the good news is that it looks as though that would be included still, that wouldn't fall by the wayside. But there are some other questions about things like new markets, tax credits, etc. And then also a question about the new corporate tax. If the new corporate tax rate comes out at 20%, how might that affect incentives that are creating affordable housing? So while a tax cut sounds good and the trickle-down theory sounds good, the real question is, are there going to be unintended consequences? And I think that last example of how if you cut a corporate tax rate, does that then provide a disincentive for investment into affordable housing? Those are those things we need to be monitoring and weighing in on. And I think that's a real danger there, that that's a nuance that many people who are involved in the budget process at the federal level may not be taking into consideration, and we need to be the squeaky wheel about those things and bring those issues up so that they aren't missed or undervalued in the discussions going forward. So that's all I have to say about the federal budget. But want to switch gears and talk a little bit about some other things that are in the works. Affordable housing incentives and LIHTC expansion. We have links to the House Resolution 1661 and Senate 548 for you to take a look at. Those are things that we are wanting to get some support from our members of Congress. Currently, Representative Wahlberg is a co-sponsor, the only Michigan co-sponsor, and we would like to see others also sign on. So we will be putting some information out. Those of you on the call, we'd like you to be involved in reaching out to your representatives, but also we'll be putting some additional information out electronically to help tee that up and link you with some talking points there. House Resolution 948, Common Sense Housing Investment Act, is also something that we provided as a link in your agenda. So we'd like you to take a look at that. Again, something that we think is important for you to be aware of and support. Representative Conyers is the only Michigan co-sponsor at this point. Again, we would like to see greater support from other members of the Michigan delegation, and so your assistance with that would be helpful.
Yeah, and let me just point out that the National Low Income Housing Coalition has created a fact sheet. I've put it in as an attachment, a handout on GoToWebinar. So you should have access to that either through the link that was sent in the agenda or through the handout. And this does give just some really quick and easy information for you to follow about these two bills and how they would affect affordable housing incentives and LIHTC expansion. The National Low Income Housing Coalition has been doing a fantastic job lately. If you are not following them on Twitter or receiving their alerts, I highly encourage you to do that. They have been holding forums with legislators, with our members of Congress, to educate them about affordable housing and LIHTC. They have been reaching out and trying to get co-sponsors from all over the country and have been making a lot of progress. You've probably been seeing some things in the news as well that they've been getting out there and trying to see some momentum behind these bills. The Common Sense Housing Investment Act, this is United for Housing. And again, this is a coalition sponsored by National Low Income Housing Coalition. They've also been doing fantastic work. I've attached as a handout the fact sheet, or it is linked in your agenda as well. And this is something that we really think we could, I know that this is something that's been tried in the past and we've seen some progress in the backtracking, but with all of the things happening with our budget and with tax reform, there does seem to be some urgency now to see some things happen. And with the affordable housing crisis being reported in the news and with our legislators starting to perhaps listen a little bit about some of these issues when it comes to affordable housing, it does seem like a good opportunity to try and see some action around these issues.
So just as a housekeeping note, we know that not everybody has done GoToWebinar before or does it on a regular basis. So to access the documents that Laurel is talking about, click on the control panel on your right-hand side, and there should be a handout section with a little triangle next to it. Click on that triangle and you should be able to view your documents. And then you can just click on each of the links, and you can just download each one of those to your computer.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing any questions or any hands raised right now. I know that that's a lot of information that we just put out there. And we're mostly just referring you to look at other information and sources to get the details about each of those. So if you have questions after looking at some of those, please let me know. Mm-hmm.
Showing up there.
No, those are questions. Those are from earlier. So here's where we're actually asking you guys to do some things. Starting with Homeless Awareness Week and our sleep out, calls to action. Please, please help us invite your elected official, and any networking that you have within the media, any contacts are also invited. I've provided through the agenda the link to our Eventbrite page. This is our online registration page for anyone who would like to participate in the sleep out. Right now, we're trying to prioritize elected officials, and that includes our members of Congress, our state legislators, and our locally elected officials, county commissioners, city council, anyone who holds any position of power. So we're trying to prioritize them and our media, but we are also going to be expanding that to include other stakeholders as well. So people who are working through healthcare, through other services that interact with individuals experiencing homelessness, but may not exclusively work with them, and so therefore may not understand the full picture or have access to all the information about homelessness. They would also be highly encouraged to participate in this event. We are trying to keep the general public from participating at this time just due to space limitations, but we may open that up to general public moving forward. So right now, our ask to you is to invite your elected official and media or stakeholders through that Eventbrite registration. In the follow-up email that I'll send out to everybody, I'll also include a handout that will have the schedule for the event, so you can see a little bit more about what will be included, and you can send that information out as well. Please contact me. Again, this is Laurel. My email address will be on the follow-up email. If you have any questions or you need any additional information, or if you want to let me know that you talked to someone who is interested and they need a little push to actually participate, I'm happy to do that for you. Did we get a question?
Can we open that up to see it better?
I'll keep talking while Jason and Eric work on the technical side here. The other ask with Homeless Awareness Week is that we do have a House resolution that will be introduced on Thursday, November 2nd. And that is being introduced by Representative Cochran, who is one of our sponsors, one of our House sponsors for this event. We have the opportunity to attend this session. It begins at noon. We will be recognized from the gallery as Representative Cochran makes a statement from the floor. Anyone who is interested in attending, you can let me know, and I can give you information about how to participate and where to be at what time. But this is just a fun opportunity to actually be recognized from our state legislators and hear about how he talks about it and how he introduces this House resolution. Our second call to action is the budget and the federal bills that Eric spoke about. We are asking everybody to contact your member of Congress, specifically for THUD for the budget that refers to HUD. We are encouraging alignment with the Senate version. It is a higher allocation of funds for the programs and the items that we would like to see increased. The one item that we would like to see a little bit more than what the Senate incorporated are vouchers. And so we are asking anybody who would like to communicate with your member of Congress to let them know that we want to see the Senate version, but a little bit more money for vouchers, please, because there is a huge need, and at the current level, we're still not reaching that need.
So we do actually have a question.
Okay.
I think this goes back to the discussion about Homeless Awareness Week and the sleep out. Are we just looking for congressional leaders or anybody to encourage them to participate?
That's a great question. Anybody within Congress?
Well, so I think the question is, are we looking for specific committee chairs to encourage them to participate, or are we looking for any member of Congress or any state legislature or any member of the state legislature to, so really leadership or anybody to participate?
Honestly, this is kind of a big ask. It's a big commitment for someone to spend all night outside or in a shelter. And so Ideally, yeah, we would focus on a targeted list of leadership, but at this point, no, I think it's open to any member of Congress, anybody within the state legislature. And I will stress that our invitation is going out to staff within the state legislature as well. We all know if anybody has had a meeting with a state senator or representative or a member of Congress office, we most often are either joined exclusively or in addition by staffers. And they are a great way to pass along information to our elected officials. So we are encouraging staff members to participate as well. So really we're not being too limited in our ask for participation within elected officials. Anybody who is an elected official or their staff is welcome to attend.
Okay. And thank you, Kate, for that question. I think that's
it?
So far, so good.
Okay, good. Webinar is working,
yeah.
kind of. Okay, so I think I kind of wrapped up our call to action around the budget. Our call to action around the federal legislation that we've outlined. Again, Eric already alluded to this. Please call your member of Congress and encourage them to co-sponsor these bills. We've had 2 Michigan reps who have co-sponsored one each of the bills, but we would like to see more. It really is an opportunity for them to show their support for affordable housing, and the list of sponsorship is growing, so it's definitely a good list for our members of Congress to be on. We just need to let them know about it and encourage them to actually co-sponsor and let them know that we are watching them and that we want them to do this as their constituents.
And I would also say this is different than a sign-on letter where you have a member of Congress that is simply acknowledging that they're supporting something that's been introduced. This is actually putting their name on it as a co-sponsor. One of the ways it elevates the discussion is that then the issue is something that they're actually paying attention to a little bit more. When their name is actually on a bill as a co-sponsor, it does elevate it and gets them more connected to the issue. And I think that can only help us moving forward.
Yep. Seeing any questions, Jason?
Nope.
All right. So briefly, just some additional MICA updates that we want to make you guys aware of, and again, ask for your help with. We are planning our Advocacy Day, which will happen sometime in the spring. We're still sorting out a date. We're waiting for the legislative calendar to go up so that we can know exactly a date where we can make sure that we can actually sit down and meet with our legislators at the state level. Last year, we held our first Advocacy Day, and this is where we introduced our policy priorities, which includes the 3 items, state IDs, decriminalization, and affordable housing, which we spoke about earlier. Because this was our first year of doing it, and these were new policy priorities, we did not have very specific ask or handouts that had a lot of very direct information that we were hoping our legislators could use. So this year we're putting together a planning committee in the hopes that we can elevate the Advocacy Day, improve those materials and the asks that will be associated with our policy priorities, and just get more people to participate and get a larger presence at our state House and Senate with regards to homelessness issues. We will be meeting on November 29th. The second point on this screen is our in-person meeting and legislative blitz. This is our annual in-person meeting for LAC. It's going to be at the MML offices. The link that I sent out to in the agenda. In Lansing. Yes, sorry, I forget they have a second one. This is in Lansing. The link that is highlighted here is actually a functional link in the agenda that was sent out, and it is a sign-on sheet for you to agree to participate. If I don't already have the address for the event there, I'll add it so you guys have the address. But in this in-person meeting, we will actually be talking about Advocacy Day and getting that planning committee up and running. So I encourage anybody who's interested in participating in our November 29th meeting to register and to be there in person, or we'll provide a call-in option as well. If you're interested in participating in the Advocacy Day, you can let us know in advance and we'll meet during that November 29th meeting period. And then the third piece of this November 29th, which I'm excited about, is our legislative blitz. We did this last year, and it, I hope, had an impact. We hand-delivered a copy of our annual report, which includes the count of homelessness, trends, other demographic data. And we'd hand-deliver this to each state House and Senate office and just let our legislators know that this is something that we were available to talk about. So we'll be doing that again this year, and we are asking for volunteers who are interested in either doing that exclusively or in addition to the meeting to stick around and help us deliver those data reports to our legislative offices. So if anybody is interested in participating in any of those activities, you can use the Register Now link in the agenda that was emailed out, or you can email me, again, this is Laurel, and let me know which one you'd like to participate in. And I'd love it if somebody wanted to participate in all three and just be our superstar within LAC. Any additional comments or updates about that?
I think the only thing we'll add is we heard you loud and clear last year that folks would like a little bit of time to talk about talking points or kind of work out a spiel before they go in to drop off the packets. So that is something that we're going to build into the program this year, is give everybody a chance to familiarize yourself with the data, and we'll walk you through some of the basics. So that way, when you're walking through the door to deliver the information, and you have a staffer or an intern or whomever happens to catch your attention, that you have a couple of things ready to go that you can engage in the conversation around. So so that would be the one thing to point out, that we heard you loud and clear with the feedback from last year about things that folks would like to be equipped with to make the event a little bit smoother, and I think hopefully make folks a little bit more comfortable with doing this.
Well, and it also ties into the fact that, as Laurel had alluded to, the fact that we didn't have specific asks. We didn't have a lot there all teed up for you. This will be a different year than last year. So it'll be a lot easier, I think, for folks to grab a hold of things and be able to have some very direct conversations about some specifics with the legislators and their staff.
All right. Any questions, Jason, that you can see?
No, this has been a surprisingly, for the size of the group, this is the largest LAC call we've had in quite a while, but they've been very quiet.
Well, that may be because we're doing the webinar. So we have a couple minutes left. This is maybe a little awkward because we usually just have a conference call and people can chime in, but we do want to give the opportunity for anyone who would like to speak to talk about what's happening locally for you. If you have heard about local ordinances, local resolutions that are happening that are related to homelessness, if there are meetings that you want to tell us about that you've been having with your locally elected officials or events, this is your chance to kind of brag about it and let us know what's going on. So, Jason, what is the best way for us to do this?
So I think the best way to do this, Laurel, is rather than, since we've got 22 people on the call and we're not entirely sure where everybody is, that you can either shoot a quick question out and say, hey, can you unmute my mic, or raise your hand. If you're not sure how to do that, should be the control panel. Should be a little hand icon. You can click on that, and then we can click on your mic to unmute you. So let's see. Don't everybody respond at once.
Because if we don't have volunteers, we're going to ask one by one and put each of you on the spot.
don't scare people away, Eric. All right. Well, I don't see anybody raising their hand. Just scrolling back through again. So once again, control panel, the little hand icon. But I don't see folks raising. At least I don't see anything flashing.
Question or a hand up.
Yeah.
So let me point people towards something if you're not wanting to share on the call today. Another opportunity, especially with Homeless Awareness Week coming up, is Micah has created a Homeless Awareness Week organizer group, which is an opportunity for those who are planning events, big, small, in between, in your community during Homeless Awareness Week in November, to get together and share ideas and ask questions. It's been a quiet group so far, but we're starting to see a little bit of action on it. And that's a place where you can go and talk about things that you're doing for Homeless Awareness Week. You can find the group attached to our Facebook page. And just because I'm talking about it, I will commit to sharing that again. So it's at the top of our feed. But that's just another place where you can get on and talk a little bit about what you're doing specific to Homeless Awareness Week. Again, that's a great time to meet with your locally elected officials or your state legislators and talk to them about homelessness.
Now, of course, so with Homeless Awareness Week in most communities, you have the ability to engage through your local COC and the activities they may be pursuing, but individual agencies and individuals themselves may get involved in Homeless Awareness Week. If you are interested in trying to engage with elected officials, one of the things I would suggest that you think about is pursuing a resolution at a local level that you can approach a unit of government, and we do have a template that you can look at, you can modify to meet your needs, but helps you get things started if you're able to get a foot in the door and ask for it. If you have particular issues in your community you want to focus on, whether it's affordable housing, etc., that's an opportunity for you to put it out in front of those elected officials to have them consider the resolution, and then it really memorializes that issue, that it is on the record, and hopefully would be something they would be interested in hearing more about and potentially getting involved with moving forward. So that's a potential door opener for some relationship building. So low-hanging fruit to be able to do that, because it's not an intimidating thing. It's a pretty innocuous task in many communities for that to be taken on. So I would suggest you all consider that or engage in your communities with those organizations that may be in a position to pursue that for Homeless Awareness Week.
And we have a quiet bunch. Nobody has wanted to share anything with us.
It's all right. It's the lunch hour. Everyone's focused on food.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a pretty good sandwich.
All right. I think the last thing then we need to announce is just again that our next meeting is November 29th. We generally meet on the fourth Monday of the month at noon for this call. We will be canceling that for November, obviously, because we're going to be meeting in person on November 29th, which I believe is a Wednesday. And I will be looking into a call-in option, so those of you who can't attend in person can still participate. But please register. Let us know that you want to be there via phone or in person so that we can get our counts right and make sure that everybody has access to the information. That information to register is in the agenda, or I will be sending it out through the follow-up email. And I think that is all from us, unless we have any last-minute words of wisdom.
Yeah, I would just say that I hope that this format using the vehicle of the webinar is helpful, and other than the technical issues that we had, certainly want to thank everybody for participating in the session. A very good turnout, as was referenced earlier. Hoping we can build on this. And again, this is interactive. At times we end up doing a lot of report outs on it, but we are hoping to have greater discussion from all of you in future meetings, and also through the committee structure as well. You have plenty of opportunity to engage, and we really are relying on your input, your perspective and knowledge to help move things forward. So please don't feel like you're a stranger. Jump in and get involved with things. But this is a great opportunity, and we really appreciate you being involved with it.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care now.